Hi guys, and welcome to today's task. For today's task, I'm going to show you how to install these 1x6 baseboards. They're really common in new construction nowadays. They're what I have in my own home, and they're what we're going to install today. One of the first things I like to have done before I do any baseboard work is to have all of the doors trimmed, so that way I know where to bring my baseboards into. I like to make my door trim come all the way to the floor, and then I raise it just a little bit. You need to raise it if you're going to be putting hardwood floor underneath it. Where we're going to be putting carpet down here, I raise it just a little bit just so it's not touching that floor, so it's not going to absorb any moisture possibly from the concrete. You shouldn't really have any, but there's a chance you do, so 1/8 of an inch, the carpet will cover it. You'll never even know. If you took all of your floorboards off your house right now, they actually would sit up at least 1/8 to 3/16 to even 5/16 sometimes, depending on how thick they need to go. So we're going to prep and get set for our baseboards to come in. And the reason I like the doors all the way down is because this board can go perfectly against that. Now I have a good starting and ending point depending on where I work all the way around the room. Some of the tools we're going to need for this job are first and foremost a measuring tape. And although your measuring tape does come with a belt clip, I don't care for it. I've tried to use it in the past and it really just scuffs the heck out of my belt. Going on and off each time, it doesn't secure it, it drops and falls out. I prefer putting it in a pouch, and since I don't want to carry my entire tool belt up and down the stairs a million times because my saw station is upstairs because the pieces are so big that I'm cutting from, I end up having to do 100 sets of stairs a day. I'm losing a lot of weight. It's great. Fantastic. So I bought this small little pouch that sits on my belt. So realistically that clips on one time and this comes in and out a lot easier, a lot simpler. I like that. I'll link both of those in the description. Next tool that we definitely want is a stud finder, and I really like this one. This one is the Zircon. You do need a good stud finder because all of your nails need to go into a stud or else they are not going to hold, especially where we're putting the 6-inch stuff. If not, it's going to tip out. The old molding that everybody kind of has where it's got like that bull nose and whatnot, it's only about that tall, and so that realistically nails into your floor plate. Okay, this is a cordless 16 gauge nail gun. I like the cordless because it's just convenient. There's no air hoses, it's really simple. But I do have this exact same gun in a pneumatic version, which I've used for pretty much building everything we've ever done, except for this project. This is the first project I've had this one on. It works really well. The reason I like it the most though is because it can shoot a 2.5 inch nail. When you're shooting through a almost 1 inch piece of board, a 1/2 inch piece of sheetrock, and then finally into stud, if you can't shoot more than 2.5 inches, or at least up to 2.5 inches, you get very little meat into those studs. So you definitely want the longest nails you can. With most baseboards, you typically do not need a concrete drill, but for today's purposes, we're going to have to use a concrete drill along this wall particularly. This wall is a load-bearing wall, and most load-bearing walls just sit flat on the ground, but back in the day, when they would pour your foundation, they would also pour a small 6-inch cement foundation right here. You can actually see it right here. This is in the utility room. You can see that piece of concrete, and there is not a chance I'm going to get a nail to go into that. And our floorboards come up to just about here, so I don't have any way to nail into this bottom plate either. So I've had to concrete drill them. And that is what we have to do just for this section of wall and this section of wall in the closet. The rest can be nailed with a regular nail. So there really isn't much to it. You simply measure the distance that you want to start with. We're going to start with this wall. I'm going to do that wall and that wall last, just because they're the most difficult to do. And I'm going to do this one and then work my way around the room. I like to do a back wall of a closet first though, or a back wall of a bedroom first, because that way I can hide kind of any gaps in those corners. So we just take this measurement first. 70 3/8, and then we cut. I know nobody cares what kind of pencil I use because a pencil's a pencil, but the best way to make the pencil stay by your ear is with one of these, a Today's Task hat, which you can get for $35, which mails it directly to your door. And I don't know about you, but I mean, this is the best looking thing going to be under your Christmas tree this year. So one little tip is you definitely want to go through and check your walls for any sheetrock or anything that's kind of protruding, anything on the floor that's going to make it stop, and just lightly clean that out real quick. With our board up in place, we can nail in the corner first because I know there's backing behind here. Then I work my way down. Now, I know there's a lot of people that would probably say, oh, you need to 45 that corner in and in, but there's no chance these are 45, and I'm not going to take the time to figure out all of those angles when, in reality, it just doesn't matter. It's an inside corner. Inside corners can be hidden really, really well, but only if they're done right. So this corner actually looks pretty good. There's a small gap at the top and it's really tight here at the bottom, but that will be just fine. But sometimes this gap can be big because this board is actually tilting this way or this way. Either way, it doesn't sit in square. So the easiest trick to that is to put another board on top, scribe your mark along there. Now that becomes your cut line, and this will sit square into that joint perfectly now for your new piece. Since this is going to be a fairly snug piece, I want to put my end in here first because this will give me something to slide against if it's too snug. But it's actually really, really nice. I like those gaps everywhere. What little bit of gap we have looks really nice. Nail it in place. And we'll move on to this wall. 50 and 5/16. So again, I'm going to put my board into that edge because that's going to be harder to slide it in if it's snug. Put it onto that one. Here's another little trick I like to do is using my wood chisel. I will set it underneath slightly, and then I will just make sure those sit perfectly level. I can either tap it down if I need to, or just lift it up, get it in place. That feels really, really nice. And nail it. Okay, don't be a dummy like me. Double check how many nails you have and make sure you keep stocking it. I've done that about 1,000,000 times. And it's really not that big of a deal other than it leaves extra nail holes to be filled, which stinks. I've gone ahead and cut the boards for this side and for in the closet because they're going to be attached the same way. Even if you hit that, you can hear how solid it is underneath. It's just straight concrete. So I do two methods for bonding it to this. I use the screws that we have, and then I also use the glue just to kind of help both reinforce each other. So I glue the corners, and then I put a bead along the top because that's the part I'm the most worried about coming out or having any separation. And it's a little easier to start from this way. And I'm pretty liberal with that bead because you can never glue a house too much. Set our board up in place. That looks really, really nice. And you know, if I was to leave that somehow, it would probably be okay without putting these screws in, but I really like making it secure. So we're going to secure and start down here. And to bond these, I'm using a 3/16 by 2.5 inch screw, and it has the pan head on it so that it can countersink a little bit. Also, to drive it, you do probably want an impact driver, and you need the Phillips number 3 head. Number 2 Phillips head is the standard head that everybody uses for like a screwdriver or whatever. And number 3 is the kind of more fatter one with a square insert in the middle. And I don't care who you are, that board is not coming off there forever. And realistically, because I'm gluing it, I only put like 2 or 3 in. A note though is this drill will completely strip these out if you do it too tight. So you need to really feel it, watch the board compress a little bit. Once it's done countersinking, back it off immediately or else you will strip it out and then you gotta re-drill another hole, and these make a huge hole in your wood that you've got to fill. Okay guys, I hope that you guys have learned something in today's task of putting up floorboards. If you guys have any questions or comments, I really like hearing from you guys in the comment section, hearing either what you have done as tips and tricks, and I love hearing the comment that I don't have any intentions of doing this, but I enjoy watching it. Hopefully this is entertaining for you as well. If you guys like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And if you are interested in getting these Today's Task hats, email mytodaystask@gmail.com. I'll leave that in the description down below, and we'll give you all the information to order a hat. Until next time, we'll see you guys. For today's task, let's see, 11 by 16. These are 1 by 6. So the door trim comes, let's get started. You already said that. This, gosh, I did have nails, holy cow. The most common, kind of the standard, and so this, and now that becomes your, oh my gosh, whoa. That is